This is the introduction to the Grumble for a Year, read by the people in the story. So, introduction. One Sunday night, my husband John and I talked to our family about the potential challenge of living a Grumble for a year. We were finally sitting down for dinner in a restaurant at 10 p.m. after traveling 2,500 miles over the last 3 days. It was the first time we'd all gathered around the table face to face in a week. On the other two travel nights, we sat scattered around small tables at fast food restaurants. It was easier pretending our audacious offspring were other people's kids fighting over fries that had spilled onto the paper-lined tray that way. Hey, you got 3 extra fries, not fair. I'm not going to let you borrow my DVD player for the next 200 miles. Now my stomach clenched, despite the non-deep fried aromas coming from the restaurant kitchen. My knees quivered under the wooden table, an upgrade from Brown Formica. Parenting was hard enough. Did I honestly want to pinky promise the next 12 months of my life to a fleeting fantasy that my children could communicate without complaint and retort without repine? I softly bit my lip, knowing I had to try. We had to try. Communication in our home had dropped to the level of mumbles and grumbles, moans and whines. We couldn't live this way anymore unless I invested in noise-canceling headphones. The problem was society frowned upon parents who muted their children. More importantly, even if I couldn't hear the rumbles, it wouldn't mean the children weren't bemoaning every single thing in their lives. I've been talking with my agent about writing a book that involves all of you. My lips pressed into a tight smile. But maybe this isn't the best time to discuss it since it's so late and we've driven so far. As I calculated, we'd gone the equivalent to the distance between Barcelona, Spain and Moscow, Russia, taking all the back roads.
Mom, you have to tell us now,
pleaded 14-year-old Maddie as she sat next to her twin Grace, who bounced in her seat. These two were the most active of our bunch of 8 traveling children. They laughed loud, lived big, and made the Tasmanian devil look like an innocent, frolicking lamb in comparison.
Will the book include our names and pictures?
Asked 12-year-old Alexis.
Will we become famous?
Fame was very important to Alexis, who would tell every new person she met that her mom had walked the red carpet. Yes, I did walk the red carpet at Grauman's Chinese Theater after I wrote the novelization of the movie Mom's Night Out. Having been moved around quite a bit in foster care since she was 5 years old, Alexis had learned how to make friends quickly. I could see from the twinkle in her eyes that any chance to be known and become popular she would consider a win. I don't know about pictures, but we will use your names, or at least pseudonyms, I answered. Grace stopped her bouncing.
What's that?
She called too loudly. Thankfully, there were very few other customers that time of night. They're false names. John stirred his straw in the soda. It's just safer that way. I nodded. That's right. You might not want everyone reading this book to Google you.
I want everyone Googling me.
Alexis smiled and tossed her dark hair back over her shoulder.
Because I'm fabulous.
I chuckled. Yes, I know you are.
I don't want everyone Googling me. That's creepy.
Grace looked to her twin to back her up. When Maddie nodded in agreement, Grace's eyes glanced back and forth on mine. Oh, do you have one more line?
What's my name gonna be? I get to help pick, right?
Of course, if we decide we want to do this challenge. I chuckled at her enthusiasm as I shook my head and gave in to the kids' demands to keep talking. We can talk about it. We don't have to start right away. It's just something to think about. A chorus of voices rose in unison.
What is it?
Whoa. I looked to John. He nodded, urging me on. Well, our idea is called A Grumble for a Year. A family of 11 takes on a challenge, or something like that. Grace's eyes widened.
You're funny.
Maddie shook her head.
Yeah, right.
I think we can do it,
piped up 7-year-old Allie. I looked down at her as she sat serenely next to me. She gave me her puppy dog eye look, finding innocence, as if...
I think we can too,
added 9-year-old Sissy. Those two were usually quieter, and their eagerness to take on the challenge surprised me.
Wait, what are we doing?
6-year-old Buddy asked. The younger boy, after 6 girls in a row, he was used to conversations swirling around him, lots of chattery, dramatic conversation, and it usually took him a minute to catch on. Voices rose with those who believed in the project speaking up and others who thought the idea was crazy, adding their thoughts to the mix. I projected my voice over the din. We know it sounds challenging. Dad and I know it'll take a lot of work, and that's why we want to offer an incentive. I turned to John. Do you want to tell them? Okay, like Mom said, we've been talking about it, and this is going to take a lot of attention from us all and a lot of working together. But if we try really hard, I was thinking we could all go on a cruise at the end of the year to celebrate a year of working to be grumble-free. Excitement built with questions about the cruise. My favorite was from Grace.
Can we have our own beds on the ship?
When you come from a large family that likes to travel, the question made sense. We usually piled kids into beds in hotel rooms or sometimes on the floor. I laughed. Yes, I'm sure we'll find a way for everyone to have his or her own bed.
Oh, wait.
Alexis lifted two hands in the air, trying to get our attention.
Does this mean we're going to have a famous writer with us following us around 24 hours a day?
I lifted one eyebrow and narrowed my gaze at her. I'm a writer who lives with you and follows you around 24 hours a day. Laughter filled the air. Alexis shrank down into her seat.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
What about you, Anna? I turned to our 17-year-old daughter who hadn't made a peep yet. She was the easygoing one of the bunch who didn't get her feathers ruffled often. Also, she was one of the ones I would rarely hear complain.
I think we have a 50-50 chance of succeeding,
she commented.
With this group, I'll think it'll be hard.
I looked to 23-year-old Nathan next. He was our youngest biological child, and he had gone from being the youngest to having 7 younger siblings. Like Anna, he was a contemplative soul who rarely complained, but he was our child who had been most impacted by the adoptions as we went from a quiet house to one filled with disruption. Numerous times a day when whines and bemoans followed every request from me, Nathan would look at me with his ER-like gaze as if saying,
"Can't we do something about all this complaining and whining, Mom?"
Oh, I try, of course, to get them to stop. No need to complain about that, I'd say, or let's try to say that again without whining. My favorite was, I don't understand whinies. Why don't you try again? But my constant reminders did nothing to bring about change. Nathan crossed his arms and set them on the table and nodded.
I won't say it's impossible, but...
But? I asked. He lifted his eyebrows and sighed, as if truly understanding the difficulty of the challenge.
Like Anna said, it will be hard, but it's worth a shot.
That's the important thing to remember. This is going to be hard, John responded. It's not as if we're trying to be perfect. Instead, it's something we'll need to work on.
But does this mean we can't tell people when we need something?
Alexis asked.
Well, we have to be good all the time.
As we waited for our food, John explained it a bit more. No one's good all the time. Even Mom and I mess up a lot. God doesn't expect any of us to be perfect, but complaining is something he takes seriously. Remember how Moses led the Israelites into the desert according to God's command? Well, they had a lot of needs in the desert, and God knew that. But instead of asking God to meet their needs and trusting he would, the Israelites complained. Complaining is wanting our way without treating others or God with respect. Everyone listened. I was surprised how well they were paying attention, although I shouldn't have been. Each time we added children to our home through adoption, we had experienced a lot of challenges, yet John and I learned that kids' wrong behavior mostly came from not being taught what was right. Time and time again, when we taught right behavior and attitudes, the kids rose to the occasion. We had already taught our kids big things like how to talk rather than yell and how to keep our personal spaces neat and clean. Well, we are still working on that. We taught chores and how to support each other within our home. Now it was time to train our kids on the little habits that sometimes were easy to overlook. Things that nibbled away at our peace and joy in our home bit by bit. Things like grumbling. From the conversation around the restaurant table, it sounded like everyone was on board, and I took a deep breath. The weariness of the trip intensified as the responsibility of what the year to come now held rushed over me. Suddenly, the idea became reality, and the project became serious. I knew because we'd mentioned both the challenge and the cruise, the kids would never let us back down now. Never. I also knew this challenge had to start with John and me. We needed to set up a framework that would teach and guide our kids without discouraging them. Setting basic goals for ourselves would be the first place to start. I sighed as the waitress approached our table with the first tray of food. I took the cloth napkin from the table and spread it across my lap. Both worry and excitement caused my stomach to do a small flip. This challenge was going to be harder for me than I thought, but it would also be so worth it. Taking a family of 11, full of personalities and viewpoints and individual struggles through an entire year without grumbling was a monumental task. But I sense we are on the verge of something special, and I couldn't wait to see what God had in the works.
Yay, that was the end.
That was the introduction of the
Grumble
Grumble
Free
Free
Year.